Addition and subtraction of decimals. Find the sum. Finding the sum means to add, and we have 3 decimal values we want to add together. Really, the only rule for adding decimals is to just make sure all of the decimal points are lined up. So I'm adding 62.4, 9.827. So I want to make sure the decimal is underneath the first one. And then 692.44. So again, be careful that you line up all your digits and the decimal point. If you want to fill in the little gaps with zeros, you can. You don't have to. But just so everything looks even. And then we're just going to add all those up, and the decimal point just goes straight underneath all the other decimals. So now we're just adding the far right side. 0, 7, and 0 is 7. 0, 2 plus 4 is 6. 4, 8, and 4 would be 16. So it's 6 and carry the 1. Then we're adding 1, 2, 9, and 2. That's going to be 14. Carry the 1. 1, 6, and 9, 16. Carry the 1 and 7. So just keep the decimal point lined up with addition. That same rule applies with subtraction, but with subtraction you do want to fill in gaps so that all of the decimals have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal. So if we want to find the difference, or if we want to subtract these two numbers, I have 0.78, and keep the decimals lined up, 0.0073. Now with subtraction, like I said, you have to fill in the gaps with zeros. We're subtracting. So now I'm going to have to borrow to do the subtraction, and the way I borrow when I have zeros like this, the 0 at the very end needs to be a 10, and if I look to the left I can't borrow anything from a 0, so I combine it with the 8. I look at this as 80, and I cross that out and make it 79. I take 1 away and put it with the 0 at the end. So I have 10 minus 3 is 7, 9 minus 7 is 2, 7 minus 0 is 7, 7 minus 0 is 7, decimal point straight down, and 0 minus 0 is 0. Let's look at the next subtraction problem, setting that up so that the decimals are lined up. And we'll need to fill in the gap with a 0. And again, I'm going to have to borrow, and the 9 will turn into an 8. Putting a 1, 10 minus 3 is 7. 8 minus 9 won't work, so I need to borrow again. 18 minus 9 is 9. 6 minus 0 is 6. Bring down the decimal. 5 minus 0 is 5. 3 minus 2 is 1. And then the 2 just drops down. So just keep the decimals lined up and fill in the gaps with zeros so that you have the same number of digits after the decimal place for all of your numbers. Let's do a little practical problem. Suppose I have $927.50 in my checking account. I wrote checks for $42.97, $101.55, $5, and $62.42. What is the total dollar amount of the checks written? So total always means to add up. So I need to add up all of the checks I've written. $42.97, $101.55, $5, $62.42. Look at the $5. If you don't see a decimal point, it's understood to the right of your number. So it's really 5 point, and we can fill in then as many zeros as we want. Now I'm just adding. So 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 2 more is 14, carry the 1, 10, 15, 19, carry the 1, and I have a decimal right there, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, carry the 1, 5, and 6 is 11, and 2. So the total of my checks is $211.94. This problem has a part A, so let's look at the part B. What is the account balance after I wrote the checks? So I started out with $927.50. And if you're writing checks, you're taking away from that. So I'm just going to subtract the total of my checks, which we just calculated, at $211.94. So we're subtracting. I need to borrow 1 from the 5. 10 minus 4 is 6. I need to borrow again. 14 minus 9 is 5. Decimal straight down. 6 minus 1 is 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 9 minus 2 is 7. So I have $715.56 left in my checking account.